A blank page awaits and the hand reaches for email instead of the task that matters. The digital inbox becomes a refuge, a place to hide from the important work at hand. Yet, the most pressing matters remain untouched while the inbox fills with less critical messages. The cycle continues with the urgent taking precedence over the important, as defined by Eisenhower. The result is a life filled with the trivial and a sense of constant busyness without achievement. It is a trap, a modern-day version of procrastination, where the easy is chosen over the essential. Breaking free from this cycle requires a conscious effort to prioritize and manage time effectively. The key is to recognize the difference between what is urgent and what is truly important. Only then can one begin to reclaim control of their time and their life. The journey to productivity is not easy, but the rewards are well worth the effort. Resistance is a patterned pushback that emerges whenever meaningful work threatens comfort, identity, or control. It is internal and often invisible, masquerading as logic, responsibility, or harmless delay. Because it is impersonal, it pressures anyone with a calling, from beginners to veterans. Because it is implacable, it returns every day and scales with the importance of the task. A writer decides to draft a chapter, then spends the morning perfecting a font and folder system. The task feels productive, but the real work is avoided, and the avoidance becomes a habit. Naming resistance turns confusion into a clear opponent, making disciplined choices easier to sustain. Once identified, its tactics lose power, as excuses can be tested against the actual goal. When delay appears, ask whether the action protects comfort or advances the work you claim matters. Treat that answer as a signal to begin the smallest real step, even if the next step remains unclear. Procrastination is a form of resistance, often disguised as planning or care, because delay can be justified in these ways. Rationalization then provides stories that make the delay seem responsible, even when the pattern repeats. Over time, the mind learns to believe these stories, and shame is replaced by a numb routine. This weakens follow-through, as promises lose credibility when actions keep slipping past the start line. A musician might schedule endless gear upgrades and tutorials, while practicing the actual pieces keeps being postponed. The surface goal is improvement, but the deeper motive is avoiding the discomfort of sounding bad today. Resistance thrives when goals are vague, so clarity about the next concrete output becomes protective. A single defined deliverable, such as one page or one rehearsal block, leaves less room for story making. Write down the rationalization in one sentence, then challenge it with a direct question about the results. If the excuse collapses, commit to a timed work block, then stop only after the timer ends. Turning pro means committing to the work because it is essential, not because it feels easy. The key is to treat creative output as a vocation, with dedicated hours, clear boundaries and high standards, regardless of mood. An amateur waits for confidence, whereas a professional works and allows confidence to follow the work. A professional expects fear and resistance but still shows up, because the job is the work itself. One person only drafts when inspiration strikes, while another begins each morning at the same hour, regardless. The second person accumulates pages, learns faster, and builds a track record that weakens future hesitation. This approach breaks the cycle, where identity is protected by never shipping anything that can be judged. It replaces fantasies of potential with evidence of practice, which is the only durable source of progress. Choose a daily start time, remove any optional decisions around it, and treat missing it as a serious breach. If turning pro feels like the missing switch, subscribe to keep learning routines that help important work get finished. A professional is patient, as mastery takes time and the early stage rarely looks impressive. Order matters because a stable process reduces drama and keeps attention available for the work. Excuses are tempting, but a professional accepts responsibility and focuses on controllable effort instead of conditions. Self-validation is essential, as waiting for praise gives resistance another lever to pull. After a rejection or a flat day, the amateur quits and calls it a sign, while the professional returns tomorrow. That return builds emotional stamina and prevents one bad outcome from rewriting the whole identity story. These traits keep resistance from turning setbacks into proof that the project was foolish from the start. They also protect long arcs, where small sessions accumulate into finished work without constant excitement. Create a simple workspace ritual, track sessions, and judge progress by consistency rather than public reaction. When fear shows up, label it as part of the process, then resume work with the smallest controllable action. It is claimed that steady work attracts allies, meaning helpful coincidences and insights appear after commitment. The mechanism is showing up day after day until effort creates momentum, and momentum invites more ideas. The Muse is a name for that source of guidance, not a mood, but a response to disciplined service. When work is treated as serious, distractions lose power, and attention becomes a magnet for useful connections. After weeks of consistent sessions, a stuck problem loosens during work, and the next step appears plainly. Before that consistency, the same mind searched for perfect plans, but nothing moved because nothing started. This reinforces the central battle, because resistance is weakened by action, not by thinking about action. It also turns creativity from a private struggle into a practice that can be repeated and trusted. Commit to a short daily block for 1 month and record what unexpected clarity or support shows up. When a breakthrough appears, credit the routine that created the opening, then return to the routine again. The obstacle is not a lack of talent, but the daily force that makes important work feel optional. When resistance is named and confronted, focus shifts from mood management to deliberate action. You learned how resistance hides as procrastination and rationalization, and why it grows with the task. You also saw how turning pro creates structure, and how professional traits keep setbacks from derailing effort. Over time, consistent work produces finished drafts, a clearer identity, and a calmer relationship with fear. That compounding effect can open surprising help, because momentum attracts ideas, feedback, and opportunities. Start with one protected block today, even 15 minutes, and let the work define the next block. Guard that block like an appointment, because the battle must be faced again each day. When the work is done, the sense of integrity returns, because action matched what mattered. If finishing what matters feels worth fighting for, subscribe to keep getting clear tactics for beating resistance daily.